I found my wife's secret self-care journal, and it detailed an affair with my best man. The final entry was a plan to drain our accounts and disappear. My name is Mark, and the life I thought was built on a foundation of granite trust and love has been pulverized into dust in one evening. It feels like I'm writing the script for a bad movie, not living my own reality. My wife, Vanessa, 31, and I, 33, have been married for 5 years. We met in grad school in Boston. She was a brilliant, vibrant art history major, and I was the overly serious finance guy she somehow found charming. For years, I believed we were the perfect complementary balance. The cracks started so small, they were almost imperceptible. Vanessa had been distant for about 6 months. She blamed work stress. She's a curator at a prestigious modern art gallery, and I, buried in my own world of spreadsheets and forecasts, believed her. My own job as a senior analyst demanded brutal hours, especially with the looming Henderson merger, a career-defining deal I was leading. We became two ships passing in the night, a cliché I never thought would apply to us. I'd plan elaborate date nights, rescheduling meetings to make it happen. She'd cancel last minute, citing a donor emergency or a sudden migraine. I surprised her with weekend reservations at a cozy inn in Vermont. She claimed a critical artist installation required her presence. Each cancellation felt like a tiny paper cut, but I dismissed the pain, attributing it to the temporary chaos of our ambitious lives. The real red flag, the one I now look back on with gut-wrenching clarity, was her sudden and intense immersion into a self-care journey. It began innocuously with yoga, which seemed healthy. Then it was meditation apps, sound baths, crystal healing workshops, and finally, journaling. She bought a beautiful, embossed, leather-bound journal from a boutique in Soho and declared it her sacred space for processing her emotions, setting intentions, and manifesting her best life. She guarded that book like it contained nuclear codes. It lived on her nightstand, and if my hand even strayed near it while reaching for my phone charger, she gently but firmly chided me, saying, "A girl's gotta have some privacy, honey. It's all part of my journey. You would understand the vibrational energy of a sanctified space." I supported it wholeheartedly. I was genuinely happy she'd found an outlet. I even financed it, thinking her newfound serenity was an investment in our future happiness. God, the depth of my naivety now feels like a bottomless chasm. The bomb detonated on a relentlessly gray Tuesday. I was working from home, preparing for an afternoon of back-to-back virtual negotiations. Our cat, Loki, a mischievous black furball with a penchant for chaos, decided the one thing he absolutely needed was the expensive gold-plated pen perched on Vanessa's journal. In a frantic, acrobatic leap, he sent the whole setup flying. The journal hit the floor, splaying open with a muffled thud. A folded piece of thick, artisanal paper that had been tucked inside fluttered out like a dying leaf. Sighing in frustration, I picked up the journal, careful to preserve her page. As I went to close it, a name leapt off the page, searing itself into my retinas. Jake, my best friend Jake, my best man, the guy I'd shared an apartment with after college, the one who'd stood beside me at the altar, clapped me on the back with tears in his eyes, and told me I was the luckiest man alive to be marrying a woman like Vanessa. My blood turned to ice water in my veins. This had to be a mistake, a misunderstanding. Maybe she was journaling about a fond memory from our wedding day. With a trembling hand that felt alien attached to my arm, against every moral fiber of my being, I read the paragraph. Jake understands the artist soul in me in a way Mark never could. His mind isn't cluttered with numbers and projections. It sees color and form and passion. Today in the storage room at the gallery, surrounded by created masterpieces we alone understood, it was electric. He sees a creator in me, not just a curator. He doesn't talk about stock portfolios and merger arbitrage. He talks about the light in a de Kooning and the pain in a Basquiat. He makes me feel alive, seen real. When he touches me, the world just stops. Mark's world is so small. Ours is infinite. I felt the floor physically lurch beneath my feet. The storage room? And my gallery? The one whose mortgage I paid for? A sick, hot nausea rose in my throat. I started flipping pages, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped animal desperate to escape. It was all there, not just abstract thoughts and poetic feelings, but a detailed, chillingly chronological log of their affair. Dates, times, specific locations. Hotel rooms I'd paid for with my credit card points, thinking she was on a silent yoga retreat. My own guest house, which I'd built for visiting family. Our marital bed. The words blurred as tears of pure, unadulterated rage and betrayal filled my eyes. It was meticulous, a project plan for the demolition of our marriage. She wrote about me with a chilling, clinical disdain that was worse than any shouted insult. Mark is so painfully oblivious. He actually asked if I wanted to order sushi from that place he likes tonight. He lives in such a mundane, beige little world. He has no idea the vibrant, dangerous passion that exists just outside his narrow, calculated field of vision. He's my anchor, but anchors also stop you from sailing. And then I found the financial entries. My professional training made my eyes instantly lock onto the numbers amidst the prose. It started small, almost a test. Transferred $500 to my private account. Mark won't notice. It's for a specialized wellness workshop. A necessary investment in my evolution. Then it grew bolder. Sold the diamond earrings his mother gave me for our anniversary. $4,200. More seed money for my new beginning. They were always a chain anyway, a symbol of a life chosen for me. She was siphoning money, liquidating assets I didn't even know she had access to, all under the guise of spiritual growth. She was funding her escape with the very resources of the life she was escaping from. I frantically turned to the final entry, dated just 3 days ago. The handwriting was more hurried, excited. Phase 1 is almost complete. The final transfer from the joint savings will happen immediately after the Henderson merger closes, and Mark's bonus hits the account. He'll be distracted, celebrating his big win, completely unaware that he's financing my freedom. That's my window. Jake has a loft in Montreal already. It's perfect, raw space, Northlight, a true artist studio. By the time he realizes I'm gone and the accounts are cleared, will be untraceable. A fresh canvas. No more lying. No more pretending to be the dutiful little wife. Just us and our art. This is the ultimate manifestation. I am finally choosing myself. I stumbled into the bathroom and vomited, my body revolting against the sheer, calculated cruelty of it all. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was a premeditated heist of my entire life. She wasn't just stealing my wife. She was stealing my best friend, my financial security, my present, and the future I thought we were building, all to fund her bohemian fantasy with a man who I now realized had always been jealous of my stability. And the timeline. The Henderson merger closed this Friday. She was planning to vanish in a matter of days. With robotic precision, my survival instincts kicked in. I took pictures of every damning page with my phone, my hand shaking so badly I had to steady my wrist with my other hand. I used a scanner app to ensure the text was crystal clear. I emailed the images to myself, my lawyer, in a secure, encrypted cloud drive she couldn't possibly access. I then placed the journal back exactly as it was, the folded note tucked inside its designated page. I wiped the pen clean of my fingerprints. I felt like a ghost, an investigator in my own home, a stranger cataloging the evidence of my own murder. I didn't confront her. How could I? If I tipped my hand, she'd just take whatever she could get and run early. I had to be smarter, colder, more calculating than she was. I called in sick to work, my mind racing 1,000,000 miles an hour. My first stop wasn't the office. It was a law firm specializing in high-net-worth divorces, a place I never imagined I'd need. I sat in a sleek, silent conference room and handed my phone to a man named Robert Carson, whose steely calm felt like an anchor in a hurricane. His eyes widened almost imperceptibly as he scrolled through the images. "This is exceptionally well documented," he said, his voice a low, professional murmur. "It's rare to have a signed confession." His advice was immediate and brutal. Secure all finances today, open new individual accounts at a different bank, and file an emergency ex parte motion to freeze the joint assets due to imminent financial dissipation. "Play completely normal," he instructed. "Do not change your behavior. Be the oblivious husband she thinks you are. It's the only way we spring the trap properly." The next 48 hours were the most psychologically torturous of my life. I had to look at Vanessa across the dinner table, watch her talk about her day, and act like I didn't know the woman sipping my wine was a stranger plotting my financial and emotional ruin. I had to smile and nod when she fake pouted about having to work late on Friday, the day of her new beginning, lamenting how she'd miss our celebration dinner. The performance deserved an Oscar. Meanwhile, I was a whirlwind of clandestine, high-stakes activity. I met with my private banker, the motion from my lawyer in hand. I moved the bulk of our savings and investments into new accounts only I could access, leaving just enough in the joint account to not raise immediate suspicion. A few $1,000s, bait in the trap. I changed the passwords on everything. My email, my retirement accounts, my stock portfolios, even my airline miles. I contacted a discreet private investigator my lawyer recommended and handed over a dossier on Jake, his photo, address, license plate number. I need to know everything about his movements, especially this Friday. I said, my voice flat and foreign. The PI, a gruff man named Frank, was worth every exorbitant penny. Within a day, he confirmed it all. Jake had indeed signed a lease on a loft in Montreal's Plateau Mont Royal district 2 months prior. He'd also booked 2 one-way tickets on a late Friday evening flight to Trudeau International. He'd even rented a van for the move. The pieces fit together with horrifying, seamless precision. On Thursday, my lawyer filed the emergency motion. It was granted by a judge within hours. Our joint accounts, our shared credit lines, everything was legally frozen. The trap was set and armed. Friday arrived. Vanessa was buzzing with a nervous, giddy energy she tried to mask as excitement for my big bonus celebration. She made me avocado toast, a painfully trendy gesture she never bothered with, and chirped, "We should celebrate properly tonight, Mark. Maybe that new French place with a tasting menu? My treat." She smiled, and for the first time, I saw not warmth, but the cold gleam of a predator watching its prey step into a snare. "I'd love that," I said, my voice sounding hollow and distant to my own ears. "It's a date." She left for work mid-morning, giving me a peck on the cheek that felt like a snake's kiss. I knew she wasn't going to the gallery. She was going to a bank, then to meet Jake, and finally to the airport. The script was written, and she was following it perfectly. My phone rang at 1:17 p.m. The caller ID flashed Vanessa. I took a deep breath. The phone pressed to my ear. I was in my home office. The door closed, staring at a real-time alert on my screen, showing a failed withdrawal attempt at an ATM. Her voice was a shrill, panicked whisper, a stark contrast to her serene manifesting persona. "Mark, what's going on? Something's wrong with the cards. My debit card was declined at the coffee shop, and my credit card isn't working. I'm so embarrassed. What's happening?" I let the silence hang for a beat, savoring the moment the first domino fell. "I know, Vanessa." Silence. Then a very different, colder tone emerged, the mask slipping completely. What did you do? The warmth was gone, replaced by pure, undiluted venom. I filed for divorce yesterday. I also filed a motion to freeze our assets. The court agreed there was more than sufficient evidence of attempted financial dissipation. More silence. I could practically hear the gears in her brain grinding, scrambling for a lie, a tactic, a way to regain control. Evidence? What are you talking about? This is insane. You can't just lock me out of our money. I have rights. This is financial abuse. She was almost shrieking now. Check your texts, Vanessa. I said, my voice unnervingly calm, a flat line on a monitor. I just sent you a few choice highlights from your journal. The entry about the storage room with Jake was particularly illuminating, as was your detailed exit strategy from Montreal. The judge found it all very compelling. The sound on the other end of the line was a sharp, choked gasp, followed by the fumbling thud of a phone being dropped. I heard Jake's voice in the background, anxious and confused. What? What is it? What did he say? Did the ATM eat the card? I didn't wait for her to formulate a new lie. Your flight is in 4 hours. I'd hurry if I were you. Though without any money, I'm not sure how you'll pay for the Uber to the airport, or the tickets, for that matter. All the accounts are frozen, both of yours. I had Jake's assets frozen, too, once we established a conspiracy. It's amazing what a judge will do when presented with a meticulously planned fraud. I heard a string of curses, a duet of panic and fury from both Vanessa and Jake. It was pure, unadulterated chaos. I heard her scream at him. You said he wouldn't find out. You said he was clueless. You ruined everything, she screamed back in the phone, her voice raw with a rage I'd never heard before. You pathetic, controlling bastard. You were always holding me back, smothering me. You never deserved me. You deserve this. I deserved a wife who didn't fuck my best friend and plot to steal my life savings. I said, the calm finally breaking to let a sliver of my own ice-cold fury through. The divorce papers will be delivered to you. I'd advise you to get a lawyer. But then again, I added the final twist of the knife. You can't pay for one, can you? Maybe you can manifest one. I hung up. My hands were shaking violently now, but a massive, leaden weight had been lifted from my chest. It was done. The facade was shattered. The immediate fallout was nuclear. Frank, the PI, was parked down the street from the bank. He provided a near comical, if not so tragic, play-by-play. Vanessa and Jake had a massive, screaming fight right there in the parking lot. According to Frank, it ended with Jake throwing his hands up in the air, yelling, I'm not getting sued over this. Vanessa, this is your mess. Before getting into his rented van and peeling out, abandoning her on the curb with a single suitcase. Vanessa, humiliated, enraged, and utterly broke, was left standing there. After an hour of frantic phone calls, she had to finally call her parents, who lived in Maine, and confess a sanitized version of the truth. They, to their credit, were horrified. They drove down to get her, but the conversation, overheard by Frank, who was monitoring the situation, was frosty. It was clear it was temporary shelter, not a sympathetic refuge. She tried to call me a few times over the next week, her calls cycling through the stages of grief, weeping, apologetic voicemails full of self-pity. I was lost, Mark. I didn't know who I was, followed by venomous, threatening calls hours later. You'll regret this. I'll take you for everything you have left. I blocked her number. All communication would now go through Robert Carson, ESQ. The divorce proceedings, fueled by the irrefutable evidence, move with brutal efficiency. Her initial claims of emotional abuse and coercion, a desperate Hail Mary. crumbled the moment my lawyer entered the journal entries into evidence. Her own words, her own meticulous planning, dismantled every argument. Faced with the prospect of a drawn-out, public, and humiliating court battle where she would undoubtedly lose and be potentially liable for my legal fees, she capitulated. She signed a settlement agreement that was incredibly favorable to me, relinquishing any claim to the house, my premarital assets, and the majority of my retirement fund, just to get a small, lump sum payout and make it all go away. The woman who wanted to manifest a grand, artistic life in Montreal settled for a cashier's check and a one-way ticket to her parents' spare room in Portland. The fantasy she built in her journal collided with the hard walls of reality, and reality won decisively. As for Jake, karma arrived swiftly. We worked in the same insular industry of finance, and word of his spectacularly unethical behavior, sleeping with his best friend's wife and conspiring to defraud him, traveled at light speed. He was encouraged to resign from his firm within a week. His reputation was ash. He became a pariah, a ghost in the very world he sought to impress. I sold our house. The beautiful, painstakingly renovated brownstone felt like a museum of betrayal. Too many ghosts in every room. I moved into a sleek, modern, high-floor apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows and a panoramic view of the Boston skyline. It feels clean, minimalist, and new. It's mine and mine alone. Loki, thankfully, approves of the new, sun-drenched windowsills. And me? I'm in therapy. Untangling the damage this level of betrayal causes is a long, painful process. I'm learning to trust my instincts again. For so long, I ignored the little voice in my head, the nagging feeling that something was off, dismissing it as paranoia. Never again. I'm rebuilding, not just financially, but emotionally. The journal sits in my lawyer's evidence file now. Sometimes late at night, I think about it. The leather cover, the embossed initials, the pages soaked with her manifestations. She thought she was writing her destiny. In reality, she was signing her own destruction.